Hey guys, it's Maladaptive. Welcome to another video of mine where I color in a scanned-in drawing. I'm going to be explaining the process that I used during this drawing in order to help the audience have a better understanding, in case anyone was wondering. I know for a fact that my friends who watch me are interested in hearing the process. The first thing that I typically do outside of the line art, of course, is the flat colors, which are the base colors that you use in a piece, and I like to separate them depending on which part of the painting I'm doing. So the hair is a flat color, the skin is a flat color, they're all separated. If a color is too light for me to confidently feel as if I have gotten every piece of it, I will begin with a color that is vibrant and good for me to distinguish between the white background, and then I'll go back in and change the color to the tone that I want it to be. The skin is most often what I use for this, since if you have a pale skin color, it often blends into the white backgrounds. Also, if you have blonde hair or white hair, even clothing, doing this method is really helpful so you don't mess up. Another technique to negate that actually is to make the background a dark color or a different color. Typically, I would use lime green if I wanted to do that method. I more often do the background strategy whenever it involves me believing that I may have missed something. So, for example, I colored in a person entirely, and I think that perhaps I missed a part of the hair. Then I'll put a layer beneath all of the coloring and fill it with a vibrant green color, one that most people do not want to use for their digital art. And it will oftentimes reveal which part of the line art I missed. So as I move on to the background, I kind of just wing it. I don't really know what I'm doing half the time. You'll see like later that I add a lot to the background, like for example the counter that she is sitting on, I expand because I realized that I don't really want to do the perspective. I want it to be more of a straightforward drawing. There are pieces that I end up taking out, such as a chair that I add to the background that I just feel is unnecessary, mostly because I just don't want to do it. I end up making the windows doubled to give it more of a visual flair, and also because I have another piece that has a giant window in the back, and I thought it would be way too similar to that piece. I guess I just wanted to feel original for once. It's pretty helpful to see your work not as an isolated thing, but as a complement to the other pieces of yours, and that's something I kind of have a problem with because I oftentimes do not stick to one consistent style, I guess. There are so many tips I've seen that say in order to gain viewership, you have to stick to a consistent style, consistent schedule, consistent, I guess, level of quality. But honestly, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. I just want to be able to make things that I like, and I want it to look nice to me, and if I want to try doing cell shading one day and painting style the next day, I'm gonna go for it. And if I want to try no outline one day and thick, strong outlines the next day, I'm gonna do it. I just want to see how it turns out. I want to see how I like it. Maybe one day I'll settle on one very distinct art thing, but until that day comes, I'm just having fun with this. So lighting is interesting because for this piece I specifically wanted an abundance of color, I guess, and I wanted to really have the lighting feel as a natural part of it. I feel like lighting for me is one of my more, like, I could work on it kind of thing. You know, there's a word for that, but I don't have it right now. Typically when you have lighting like this, you want the lights to be a warm color. So since her hair is yellow, on the color circle, you want the color that you choose for the lighting to be closer to the white, but also closer to the vibrant yellow, instead of closer to the red yellow, if that makes sense. Meanwhile, for the shading, I put in purples because purple is nice on skin, let's be honest, and purple's a really good color for shading these kind of things, but you don't want it to be like a very flat, vibrant purple. I was still trying to make it fit in with the drawing. I think I ended up going for a purple and yellow color scheme for this piece because of that, which oftentimes I try to stick to a specific color scheme. So my first piece that I posted was very pink and purple and yellow. Meanwhile, the next piece I posted was very reds and dark colors, maybe a little bit of yellow. I might really like yellow. Very nice color to use for things. Back to this video though. Most of the shading in this piece is actually a purple color. It is not just one shade of purple though, because each color in a piece works off of each other. Typically it's for a cool color, I want the shading to be a purple that's closer to blue. Meanwhile for a warm tone, my purple is closer to red as opposed to being closer to blue. It kind of makes it easier to complement these specific kinds of purples. You have to be paying attention to what colors are being used and what colors overlap each other. You could end up making colors that clash completely if not, or, you know, you have to know the rules in order to break the rules. If you can make the colors clash well, go on ahead, go for it, buddies. I employed use of the lasso tool in order to avoid me from shading over specific spots. I oftentimes actually don't do this because I know no fear. This is one of the rare instances that you can see me do this. Figuring out how the lighting affected the skin and shading, since I have like 2 or 3 different light sources in this piece, was a fun time for me. I'm not really afraid to admit I have as much trial and error as I do in my pieces. I do not see myself as like industry standard professional. I see myself as above average, but you know, I'm happy with it. I really enjoyed doing the shading on the hair. Oh man, especially the guy's hair in this piece. Like, I love the way that the light reflects off it. It's a lot more noticeable than the light reflecting off the girl's blonde hair. Doing the shirts for the guy though, like especially the vest, was difficult because those colors, it's really hard for me to visualize specifically how green would appear in lighting such as this, especially in a piece that is so reliant upon the color scheme of purple and yellow. I was able to do the shirt underneath, which is supposed to be white in normal lighting, and I was fairly happy with that, but I don't know if in the end I am satisfied with the green vest, but it certainly is good enough for me to pass, and that's what matters, right? So I also mess with the color sliders quite a bit in this piece in order to kind of help me see what other options I have. In order to pull those up, if you don't know, typically Control U does the hue and saturation, and it's a good way to see what colors match what. You do have to do a bit of editing with them if you do change a color halfway through a piece, but you know, if you just completely messed up and didn't realize it till later, it can save your life. The life of your piece. The blue shadowing, I wanted for some more contrast and stuff. I initially went a little too hard with it, so you can see me erasing the blue shadows, figuring myself out, and I ended up making it a lot more subtle. The blue shadows are light reflecting off of the bottles around, as well as just me wanting more blues. So it half has a purpose, half is just for my own happiness. And then afterwards I put more of an intense purple shading, specifically to demonstrate the lighting from the windows. So all the purple is inside the outlines of the characters. It looks like the light is coming from the other side of them that we are not looking at. You oftentimes have to think, how will lighting affect your piece? How does it look in real life? How would it mimic it? There's a lot of different factors you have to keep in mind whenever you are working with digital art, or any kind of art actually. Digital art just gives you a lot more tools and to be able to replicate them, so it's a bit more of a responsibility, I guess. People expect it more as well, but my god, you just have to think of everything. It's a labor of love. I really enjoyed making these bottles. It was a lot of fun. I did have to look at photo references to see how the lighting would react. That's also the part where I had the light reflect off of the bottle onto her leg. I think it looks really good. I put some texturing over it as well, so you can kind of see like a little subtle glass texture. I went on to the background, started editing it to make it look a little more based in reality, but I was kind of done with the background at a point, and there are a lot of lazy shortcuts that you can do in order to not make the background be such a central focus piece, so I ended up employing a few of those. I put more detail onto the bar. I gave it a cute little design. I didn't really care that it wasn't perfectly symmetrical. I actually feel like the stretch quality of it looked beautiful. And then I put a little golden trim at the top, just to really add some more color and flair to it. I did some golden trim at the base of the flooring and the wall in order to help that part of the background have more detail. And then I did the reflection of the light on the windows. Just more examples of keeping the environment's factors in mind. Because I didn't really care to put anything in the corner of the piece, I had enough fun with the bottles that I was perfectly fine with doing it again. In fact, I really wanted to make more. I ended up making it look like the camera of the photo was behind a shelf of bottles, kind of peering in voyeuristically to this pairing. I ended up making one bottle, really nice teal color, enjoyed it a lot. And then I added a few more to kind of show like this isn't just one bottle on a shelf, there's a few bottles. I didn't want to completely block the right side of the piece though, so I put it in as the end of the shelf instead of the middle. You're still able to see the detail of the legs and the bar and the people without being completely blocked by an array of bottles. This isn't a piece about bottles, this is a piece about them, gosh darn it. So I did a few bottles of different varying sizes and shapes, and especially colors. I didn't want it to be all monotonous, I wanted to kind of show more of that array. And they are that blue color because that blue is meant to be the contrasting color in this piece. Because we do have the yellows, we have the purples, the blue is what stands out. That's why there are a few things in the piece that are blue that are a piece of the pairing here. It kind of ties them into the contrasting things outside of this. Maybe I should have made the vest blue. Even though the scanned-in piece, it has white and black, and it is technically a flat piece, the only reason you can see through it is because the layer style is on, I'm pretty sure, either darken or multiply depending on the mood of the piece. I put a layer over it on the screen layer so that whenever I color over the line art, it only shows on the parts that are black. This allowed me to change the color of the outlines even though the initial outlines was a picture that was scanned in. I didn't have to get rid of the white on that layer. I could just color over it on the screen layer. And now I'm just finishing up a bit more of the background detail, adding some lighting, adding some shading, especially texture. Oh boy, I can go ham with some texture. I just have a grand old time here. This is what gives me purpose in life. So I exported the pics in Photoshop because there are some things in Photoshop that you just cannot achieve in Paint Tool Side. Like, I love Side, I've been using it way too long, I should move on by now. All the cool kids have moved on to Procreate, but I do have Photoshop. I'm going to use some of the effects here. The background took me a lot of time, I'm gonna just say it now. Backgrounds are hard, guys. They are my hiccup. Which is a really big bane, because I want to do more background pieces. I ended up doing a blur in the background to kind of be like a camera focused, or I also did a blur to the bottles in the front. So the camera is focused on the pairing, as well as the bar and everything in the middle ground. I ended up doing a few layers of different kind of effects on them to kind of edit the colors more. And then I put a layer of a dodge light in between them in any place that the light would shine. And that's it! Let's check out the final product now.